Good morning. Today is Thursday, if you didn't know. We were talking before we came on live. Hopefully Clemmy didn't have our mics on. Hopefully she didn't hot mic us. We were talking about what's coming up and the excitement around it. And tell us what you're making.
I am making tamales for the Cinco de Mayo, May 5th potluck. And by making, I mean...
Hey, Hector, Kay, Dawn, Miss Donna.
I will be purchasing them
putting
and
some sauce on top.
Mm-hmm. They're delicious. We had them last week.
They are really good. Tony, good morning.
The beef ones.
So y'all let us know. Emma, good morning. Let us know what you're going to bring to the Cinco de Mayo potluck. This is when you...
Please don't bring desserts.
Okay. I like desserts.
No, we always end up with a ton of desserts.
What if they bring key lime pie, though?
It's not Cinco de Mayo themed.
Mm-mm. Limes are Mexican. Haven't you ever seen a lime dance?
The wiggle.
Good morning, Jensen, Q, Clemmy, you're right there. Where do we get them? Where do you get them from? There's no question mark. Bringing hunger. Good morning, Hal.
Hector,
we can't tell you. It's a secret.
Hector,
Vegan
I
enchiladas.
need you to bring, what did you used to bring to
I used
life
to bring
group?
a bunch of tamales.
No, it was a certain meat.
Certain meat. Barbacoa.
I don't remember.
Oh, please bring barbacoa. That'd be great.
Sorry, Hector, to put you on the spot. Vegan enchiladas.
Yeah, because Charles is vegan. Or vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you learn something every day. I didn't know that about him.
Yeah. My favorite Hispanic dish is chile rellenos.
And your favorite one is from?
From Matt's. I like Matt's in Roy City.
It has raisins in it.
Has
Really?
raisins and...
Then it's not Mexican.
Hey, Mr. Gilbert. Good to
not
see you. Hope you're
Mexican.
feeling good. No, it's definitely Tex-Mex, but it's good. It's good.
It actually does taste good.
So let us know what you're bringing to the Cinco de Mayo potluck.
We're also having our Mexican snacks that day.
Yeah, so everyone should be wearing sombreros, and what do you call the...
We will not get offended.
What do you call
blankets?
The
That's offensive.
The poncho, like potato sack blankets.
Colorful.
You know what? Jordan has one. He got one for Christmas from my family. I kid you not.
He should
That
totally
was
wear
one
it.
of his gifts. He's
wear
going to wear it. Yep. We will not get offended.
Good morning, Miss Tao. So yeah, we're having a party on here today just to talk about Mexican food.
Yep. They had
What
to
else?
bring
No
me
one is
on for
letting us
that.
know what they're bringing. Hector, thumbs up.
Rosa, good morning. What was it that we liked in Costa Rica so much?
Plantains.
Plantains
Beans.
and the empanadas. And then
Seriously, we went to
salsa de Cerno.
We went to this night rainforest tour, and you get a private tour, or we did because it was raining, and no one else was there. And then they homemade like cook you all
Morning,
the food
Dee Dee.
right there on the spot. Oh my gosh!
Oh, it's so good.
Ugh. Delicious.
Someone can bring some fresh mango, some mango sherbet or sorbet.
I'm making the mangonadas, yeah.
Huh?
I'm making those mangonadas like last year that,
Oh, are you?
yeah.
If I'm able to go, I might bring plantanos. Come on.
Plátanos. Those are the plantains.
Yum. Let me know if you bring them before you set them out on the table, so that I can get one.
I'll bring some fried chicken from across the street. Javi, good morning.
You won't even eat fried chicken.
I know. I'm just thinking like Pastor Ryan. Henry, good morning. Good to see you. All right, so I guess we can get into it now that we've all made ourselves hungry for Mexican food, and we'll be going to lunch somewhere nice.
I didn't pack lunch, so there you go.
Boom!
Neither did
Enchiladas
I.
for lunch. Good morning, Kaylee. Good morning, Eden.
Hi, baby.
So we're still talking about power of the inner circle, and I was going to have Pastor Mallory and Pastor Caro do my live stream for me this morning because I have to go to Miami this weekend, and I thought I was going to have to be gone. Speaking of Hispanics, I have to go be with my Hispanics side of my family this weekend in Miami. And I call Tampa the armpit of America, so if you go a little lower, then you know. Anyways.
Nope.
That's what I think of Miami. But anyways, Bring some chicken, but call it pollo. Pollo loco. Can we bring crazy chicken?
Pollo Loco's great. If you bring pollo,
What's
I
the
like
other one?
it.
Pollo Reggiano? Reggio? Yeah, you can tell I've been there numerous times.
In Rockwell?
I'm going to
It's
bring some
good.
Shiny Walk. So what were you saying? Oh, yeah. So I was going to have them do my live stream, but then since I'm not leaving till Saturday, I just figured we'd all come on and have a party together. Sound good?
Sounds great.
So if you have any questions as far as inner circle friendships, anything like that, then y'all can drop them in the comments and we will go from there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of pitch y'all some questions and we'll see how it goes from there.
Cool.
You have
Looking
notes?
at some notes.
Okay, good. No, that's good.
didn't
Am I
print mine
watching the
out.
food note? How? This guy's always complaining.
How's that a complaint?
I don't know. I didn't say it was. We're probably better than the Food Network. Food Network's pretty rough now.
I don't know. I don't think I would be giving good reviews, like
No?
good enthusiastic reviews.
My
This is
favorite
great.
food show was called The Final Table.
Crazy.
Oh, that's a great show. That's one
Like
of
they
my
only
favorites.
made one season of it though.
I know.
Like why? Craving purple cabbage, so maybe a dupe of Cantina tacos. Good morning, Miss Savage.
I do like cabbage.
I'm not a huge fan, but she's been making
Have
a
you
stir fry
made-
recently with cabbage in it. It's really
Oh, I
egg
love
roll in a bowl.
cabbage.
Have you
No.
done that? I'll give it to you. It's super easy.
I love cabbage.
Egg roll in a bowl.
I prefer cabbage over lettuce.
Yeah, I quit buying lettuce. I'm not a fan of salads anymore.
All right, so
We're hungry now.
let's feed our spiritual hunger. How about that? Can we do that?
Let's go.
All right, so I'm gonna ask y'all a question. Y'all can rock paper scissors, see who wants to answer first. But when someone says inner circle or asks you about your inner circle, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, what do you think of when someone says inner circle?
Those that know you, the best, are those that you go to in time of need, time of encouragement, when you need life spoken into you. Your
Good morning, Amanda.
Community,
Good
right?
morning, Alex.
So I feel like community is huge, but also you don't want that too large. So that inner circle is those few people that you allow into, I don't want to say your inner thoughts, but that you go to when you need something, but not being so. No, you go.
Well, before Pastor Caro answers, something that you said, community. I think for Americans, and I think I only got this revelation because I lived overseas in a different type of culture. For Americans, it's hard to understand some aspects of the Bible because the Bible is written in a community-based culture. Mm-hmm. And so everyone was in everyone's business. You got to understand, people were married at 14, 15, 16 years old, and they still lived with their parents married for several years. And different things like that. Neighbors helped each other. You could go knock on your neighbor's door like you used to be able to in the 80s. Now you like get yelled at if you knock on your neighbor's door, or like
You look on the camera and tell them to go away.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's kind of an important part, that sometimes as Americans we have to break down our culture and actually look at the word from a community-based culture, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I think that you hit something kind of important.
But also speaking of community, not being so desperate for community that you just let your walls down and let anyone and everyone in that inner circle, right? So you need to.
Yeah, let's talk about that in a minute. But I'll let Pastor no, that's great. Let's break that down.
Don't be desperate.
Yeah.
And just go share all your business with everybody, or the opposite, don't be desperate and just let anyone speak into your life.
So we'll come back to that because that's a great talking point. So Pastor Caro, go ahead and talk about what you think of when someone says inner circle.
When I think about inner circle, like just for me, I think about the people who I have given access to have input in my life, like the people who are actually able to speak, and that their word holds weight in my life, right? Because there's so many people that can come and give you advice or have an input or give you their opinion. But if you give everyone equal access, then you're going to end up frustrated, confused, or too many voices in your life to follow. So there's certain people in my life that if they speak into my life or if they give me their thoughts or opinions, they hold more weight than other people.
Yeah.
That's what I consider the inner circle to be. My inner circle, if they say something, it's going to hold more weight than someone who's not in. I'm just able to not have
Right.
much,
It goes in one ear,
not,
out the other.
yeah, not value, but I don't have to, hold on to what they say because they're not, I haven't given them that access in my life.
Right.
So let's tie both of y'all's answers in. You said something about certain people. So how do we choose those people, and how do we avoid being, what you said, so desperate for community that we choose the wrong people? So kind of group those two answers together. Because I think that there's a lot of dangers to being desperate for community. A lot of dangers. So encompass all of that. And I'll try not to interject.
I think sometimes you have to be careful of who quickly approaches you and wants to be, how do I say this, to give you advice, because those people usually are the ones you don't want giving you advice. And so making sure that, like she said, you have the choice and the control of the weight that you allow someone
Hey, Heath. Good morning.
to speak into your life. And so just really being aware of, thank you, I'm gonna have to being aware, does that make sense?
Being aware of.
No, what I just said.
I got distracted by your mic. Sorry.
Go ahead, Pastor Carl.
Well, your question was how we choose people.
How do we choose people, and how do we yeah, let's start there, and then let's get into the danger side of being desperate for community. 'Cause I think that's a big thing.
Obviously, like your perspective on how you choose people will depend on where you're standing on. Like if it's based off just being desperate for community, then you're going to seek after just friendship and being around people all the time. But if you're wanting to seek or find people who are going to add value to your life, or from a biblical standpoint, then you're going to put certain parameters of who you allow in your life. So, for example, like John Maxwell has like the law of the inner circle, and he gives just 3 quick, how would you say it, like comparisons or like standards of who you should, guidelines of who you should allow.
Standards is a good word too.
Standards of who you should, or how they qualify to be in your circle. And number 1 is that they have to share the same values as you. Like if they don't share the same values as you, then they don't need to be in your inner circle.
And so that kind of goes to the danger of desperate for community, because how can someone be in your inner circle if they don't share the same values?
Yeah.
You're not getting like-minded advice. You're not getting like-minded reciprocation of any communication at all. Like anything you say is through, and they answer you or they talk to you, but it's from a different filter.
Yeah.
And I think people in their adulthood have the danger of, okay, I've had these people in my inner circle since I was in my mid-20s, and they just...
You're getting way ahead. That's the last question.
Okay. Just kidding.
So let's...
Okay, so going back to that, okay, how do you choose people? When you go to somebody and ask their advice, they're speaking the word, they're not giving their opinion, right? They might, after they tell you the word, they might give you a little bit of advice and wisdom, right? Godly wisdom, but they're not just... playing into your emotions, playing into what you're saying.
It's a great question.
But they're backing it up with the word.
So let's kind of go along with this, because I think this goes right into what we're talking about, being desperate for community and the dangers, and what the word calls multiple times in Proverbs. It says friends in quotation marks, and I think that's very intentional, because there are people that come around you that act like they're friends, but then when things get hard, they either bail on you, or whenever you ask them to keep something close guarded, they go and shout it from the rooftops and betray you. And so Henry asks, how do you choose or trust anyone after you've let someone in your inner circle do you wrong? And I would think anyone, especially as a Christian, because you try to have as much grace and forgiveness for people, and you try to love people as much as you possibly can in the natural, and I think the Lord gives you a supernatural grace for people a lot of times. I'll try to word it that way. But I think all of us could say, hey, I've been done wrong, not just once, not just twice, not just 3 times, but a plethora of times. And that's just something that you have to be mature enough to realize, hey, look, people are people. Yeah. They're going to mess up. They're going to do you wrong. And you just keep moving on. And you just realize, and here, hey, Samara, good morning. This is the balance between being in the world. If I was in the world, I'd be like, hey, stuff you. I don't have to talk to you ever again. Right. But as a Christian, you realize, hey, yes, they screwed up. Yes, they did me wrong. But how many times have I screwed up? How many times have I let someone down in some capacity? And what would I want from them? Would I want the forgiveness? Would I want, if I said, hey, I'm sorry, like I screwed up, would I want them to hold a grudge against me? Like, because I think that's very important to your inner circle too, because I remember even before I was saved, me and one of my best friends kind of went to loggerheads over something, and like literally it got physical. Like we wrestled or whatever. But then after we were done, we're like, okay, cool, I love you. You know what I mean? And there you have those certain people where you can have any type of, I mean, hopefully as a mature adult, you don't have physical things, but it's, you can have a tough conversation and walk away, hey, I love you, and still be good friends.
Because we're called to love everybody, but that doesn't mean you put them in your inner circle, right?
Good morning, Christine.
And I will say, like, to that point or to that question,
too,
like Jordan and I have had like multiple friends that have burned a bridge with us. And in our natural, and I'm like that more than Jordan is. I'm more like, I don't want anything to do with you after that. Like, don't be in my life. But Jordan is very much like, well, no, they're still our friends. We still love, but you don't give them access to.
There's almost like levels.
Yes, there's levels of friendship.
Just like
levels.
Jesus had his disciples that were the hundreds, the 80s, the 70s.
Correct.
But then he had the 12. But then he had the 3.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's kind of the same way. Is like. You have certain people that you let in until they prove themselves wrong. And then even whenever they screw up, you forgive them. But then if they keep doing it repeatedly, okay, you move down a notch or two.
Yes. And
it's not you're continuing to pursue that relationship. You're not
Correct.
You're not going out of your way to do them wrong, and you love them, but you're not pursuing that relationship.
Love with boundaries.
Love with boundaries.
And I will say, like, on your end, like when someone does burn a bridge with you, you have to even guard your heart that you don't become so, like, you don't put a wall up so much that you don't want to be relational anymore, or you don't want to open up your life or to build new relationships because of what someone has done to you in the past. There's a balance of not having them like to that level of intimacy in your life, but at the same time still being open
to
having more relationships and still adding friends to your life.
That's a good point. Like I think that's something, like, I can be very black and white. So that's something I have to I've had to work on over the years and continually work on, is I can either be like, all right, cool, yeah, this person's in. Nope, this person's out. Like, and there's a time where there's like a middle ground. And again, you don't allow them to beat you over the head 80 times before you release them from your inner circle, but you want to give people the same opportunity you would want them to give you.
Yeah.
So, and we've kind of danced around it, but the being desperate for community and the dangers and having false friends, like, that can destroy a life. Like, people, you have to be mature enough to realize, am I so insecure that I'll let anyone in my inner circle? Am I so insecure that I'm almost aggressive in my pursuit of having friendships that I lower my standard?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because then whenever I lower my standard and I have this high expectation, how can I word this? I see people do it all the time, so how can I put it into words? I feel like so many people get desperate and impatient, especially, again, here in the Western civilizations. We're so used to a microwave culture, everything instantaneous, that if we don't see our whole life change in every aspect in a year or 2 years, that we get impatient and we lower the standards of everything. And with friends, that's so dangerous. Because if you lower the standard of who you allow to have access, like you were saying, Peshkaro, to your innermost, you were saying innermost thoughts, but your innermost workings of your day in, day out life, then it can destroy your life.
Oh, yeah.
Do y'all have any, like, examples, testimonies, anything like that?
I think it can be a struggle if you're someone who wants to please people. That can be a danger in who you choose to be your friends, because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. And so knowing that there's a good way to go about it, you're not like having to text someone and say, you're no longer like a kindergartner, you're no longer my friend, but you have to be, we're all called to love, and we're all called to be kind to everybody, but that doesn't mean they're in your inner circle.
I think this topic for me is a little bit like I'm very black and white too. Like I'm either like on the opposite end, because I'm not the most like relational person. So building friendships and relationships has always just been a little bit like harder for me. But there's this thing that I notice about people, and like at every age, it's not like just a teenager thing or like an adult thing. But there's some people that find it really hard to be by themselves.
Right.
Like they're not okay with being alone. They're not okay with it being quiet. They need constant noise, community, friendships, always hanging out, always on the phone, always doing something. And I'm not like that. Like I'm perfectly fine with being by myself. Like Jordan has to force me to do things, like to go out. So I think, and being so desperate for community, you almost lower your standards for people or what you're willing to compromise because you're lonely and you just want people around you, and you allow anyone around you. And the danger in that is that, one, like you'll compromise your own standards, your own beliefs, whatever you are standing for. And I mean, the importance of that is like the people that come around you, you end up sharing your life with them. So you end up sharing what you're believing for. You end up sharing what you're wanting to see in your life. And those are the people who are going to, speak into your life. And if they're not standing where you're standing, they're not going to rise up to you. You're going to lower down to them. Yep. So it's important to just, if you're someone who's extremely relational and you want people around you all the time, you pray friends in. Like if there's no one around you right now, I'm like that. I've had multiple people that come in for seasons in my life. And I'm like, Lord, like I don't want to force a friendship, but I do want a friend. Like I want a friend that's going to stick with me and not, waver. And I want them to be like this. And they come into my life. So you can pray friends in that are going to be godly friends, stand with you biblically, believe like you believe. Right. So it's important that you're not so desperate to not be by yourself or alone, that you just are willing to befriend anyone.
Yeah, I think if you lower standards in one aspect, then you start noticing all your standards lower. Like I think people think it's okay to lower it. How do I say this? Like sometimes we get so spiritual we're not practical, and this is kind of a good morning from Oregon. Good to see you. This is kind of fits in that. It's okay for me to lower my standards because we're supposed to love everyone, so I can still be friends with them. But then there's that danger if I feel like I have to constantly please people, or if I'm so insecure that I can't be alone for a week. And when I say alone, you still have community around you, but some people feel like they have to constantly. And I used to be like, when I wasn't saved, this was me, and I used to have to constantly be texting someone or constantly be around people. Because if I'm just transparent, I grew up as an only child. And, like, I remember even telling my mom one time, sorry, Mom, but I was like, in one of my most frustrated moments, I was like, why couldn't you have had another kid? I'm so I have no one to play with. Like, and so, like, that's something I had to work through, my own insecurity. You know what I mean? And I think that if we carry that on into adulthood, it can be very dangerous. Because then we start making poor decisions. We start compromising different things. And we get to a point where once we lower that standard for one thing, then it's so easy to crumble and lower the standards for everything else.
Yeah. And I will say, like, we can't be so, like you said, we have to be practical. Like, there are people in, like, different seasons of your life that come into your life. Mm-hmm. And doesn't mean that, like, hey, you're not in my inner circle, so, like, I'm not going to spend time with you. Like, that's not what that means. No. You can be with people, and you can surround yourself with all kinds of people at all levels of maturity or all levels of whatever their walk in the Lord is. But the people that you allow to
have access to your intimate
have
details.
Access to what you're believing for, what you're standing for, the input that they give into your life, what you share with them. That's what the inner circle means. It doesn't mean that you're selective of who you're around all the time. No, you can be around tons of people, right. But the people
the
you do life
tells
with.
Us, like, Jesus was around sinners, mm-hmm. and the Bible even tells us that. Look, if you're truly making disciples of all nations, like, which is a command from the Word, you're with people that are not at the same level as you.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you get their advice.
Yeah.
Or you are allowing them to the intimate details. You're literally teaching them and guiding them from the word. But that doesn't mean you allow that to go both ways.
Yep.
Discipleship isn't both ways in everything.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Hove lane, right? So when the Hove lane gets active, there's one lane going the opposite direction, correct? But the other 2 or 3 lanes are still going the appropriate direction. Does that make sense? Y'all know what I'm talking about?
I didn't know you pronounced it like that.
HOV, Hove.
I thought it was like Hob.
But does that make sense? Like, so everything's still flowing one way, but then there's a few things that flow back to the person doing the discipling. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I don't know. It made sense in my head.
Well, no, like for example, like Jordan
High
and I.
occupancy vehicle lane.
I don't
on
know.
the
That's what it's
highway.
for either. But for example, like Jordan and I are surrounded with teenagers and leaders all the time. Like that's who we do life with. But it doesn't mean we sit with teenagers and share with them what we're believing for and intimate details of like this is what we're going through and what do you think? Like that's not where it goes. Like we have selected people that will share what's going on with their life. Like, hey, will you stand with us on this?
Yep.
It's not everyone who's like we're discipling tons of teenagers and young adults and leaders, but it doesn't mean that we share with them what's going on. Like they can share with us and be transparent with us, but we're not sharing everything about our life with them. There's only selective people that we go to for that.
And then friendships and ministry are a whole different.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different thing.
Like your allowance of friends when you're in ministry goes from hundreds to 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just because like, and it's even harder to. It's even harder to be friends with people, like intimate friends with people at the same church that or the same ministry you work with, unless like I would say like this where we are now as a staff is very different than any staff that I've ever worked with, because for the 99.9% of times this staff understands where that friendship line is, but the boundary is still there. Like I think that's one reason Pastor Ryan and I have such a good relationship, that yes, we have a friendship, but we both know clearly where that boundary line is and neither one of us cross it. And that's not to boast on us. I think we just kind of organically figured that out because we were both on staff before that happened, and we've been both in different positions before he became the lead pastor. And in most staff, that doesn't occur. Like that doesn't. Everyone thinks they can just be friends at the same level and call their pastor dude, and like that's not how it works.
Nope. And I will say, like, in this topic of friends, like within the church or ministry, I think that's where the most level of offense comes from, because I don't think people expect to get hurt from people inside the church. But you have to remember that people are people. Like no one's perfect. Everyone's going through their same thing. Just because they're in church or in the same church as you are, doesn't mean, you know, that they're at the same place or that they won't mess up or do something they're not supposed to do. So, because I've talked to many people and they get offended, or, you know, they stop serving or they don't want to be part of church anymore because they've gotten hurt from a church friendship that they didn't see coming. They were blindsided by it. And you have to be, I mean, almost mature enough to, one, not hold on to that grudge or offense, but to understand that even because they're in church, it doesn't mean that they're going to be perfect. They're still people.
Yeah, let's break that down a little bit, because I've seen even recently that people get offended by one little thing and stop serving in an area. And it's just like, that doesn't affect anyone but you. Like that. They
think they're making a point.
Correct. And the point is, okay, whatever. Like no one else cares. It only affects you. It only makes your walk with the Lord more difficult, because now you're harboring offense because of someone else doesn't even notice. Like it wasn't an intentional thing towards you. Like it's just part of making decisions, part of growing, part of anyways. All right, so let's go 2 more questions and we'll see how it goes. What order do I want to do these in? I'll do the last one first because y'all both have brought it up. and y'all may have to actually think about this a little bit, but I think you'll have an instant answer, but it'll make you ponder as well. When or how did you realize that it's okay if your inner circle changes in different seasons or as you mature in Christ?
That's a good question.
When or how did you realize it?
That it's okay, because y'all have both kind of said it retrospectively, kind of, is that it's not always your same inner circle that you had when you were growing up. So many people think because we've been best friends for 30, 40 years that that's my inner circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if you actually think about it, if you look back on pictures, that your parents took when you're little, most of those faces that are in your pictures are just unfamiliar, right? So those people were, quote, your friends then, they're not now. And so just knowing that, yeah, like you said, seasons can change. I think I was in my mid-20s, late 20s, when I realized that just because I had a fantastic relationship with someone in my college years, right? And in that season, that is what I needed. Once I got married and, took on other roles, that change of, we were on totally different pages. And not that we weren't friends, we would stay in touch, but even this one over here, when we got married, he would say, you watch, so-and-so's not going to be in your life anymore because of XYZ. And I was like, no, that's not true. We're always going to be friends. And it was true. He called it because he's, he has been through more than I have. And so he knew that, okay, this person, that was a season for you, Mallory. And, what you're going into now is going to be different. And not just because it's, in a ministry aspect, but there are times when you have to ask the Lord to show you who's supposed to stay and who's supposed to kind of go, extend it out further, right? You touch base every now and then and just say, how are you doing? But it's not that intimate circle that you're doing life with.
Yeah.
I think mid-20s.
Yeah.
Late 20s.
What's up, Jason?
I think you need to
Miss Monica, good to see you.
I think you need to define like the purpose of the inner circle, like why you need them in your life. Because when you notice, because the natural thing to do is like when friends leave you or they phase out, you get hurt. Like you get hurt because you thought that friendship was going to last forever. But when you realize that your inner circle, like the people in there are meant to add value to your life and are meant to, bring different strengths that maybe you don't have, you'll see the people in your life come and go as I needed that in that season.
Yeah.
I needed them to add this in that season. And when that season's over, you'll see the shift of they're no longer adding to me. Like it's different.
Right.
Like I've either I need to move on to something different or they move on to something different. So when you understand that people come into your life for a purpose to add value to you and they transition out, you're no longer hurt or offended that they left you. It's like, God, like, thank you for that friendship. Like they added so much value to me in that season. And when they left, we're still friends. We're still, but they're no longer, all around us all the time or day-to-day life, but you're still, in life and somehow connected.
In fact, I had someone in Bible school that was my best friend. Like I wouldn't have made it through Bible school without being in a straitjacket without this person. But then like as I grew into ministry and as they didn't go the direction they probably should have gone in ministry, they didn't understand what I was doing. They didn't understand like what my day-to-day life looked like. And then whenever I have 3 kids and like they didn't get it. And to the point where like they would get mad if I wasn't responding the way they wanted me to where I called one of my other friends in my inner circle and was like, hey bro, like what do you think about this? He's like, let it go. Okay, cool. That's what I need to hear. Like that's what I felt. But those are the kind of people you need. Like you need people that are going to tell you the truth, even when you know you need to hear it, or even when you don't want to hear it, but that you respect enough that you're actually going to take their biblical advice.
Right.
Anything else on that?
And good friends are not going to make you feel like you were just talking about. If you have 3 kids, they didn't understand your ministry. A good friend who is speaking life into you is not going to make you feel guilty because you couldn't go to coffee.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they realize if that's not a priority in your life, or you didn't reach out in a month. It's there's not that guilt or that.
And I think that goes exactly back, and I want you to elaborate on this, is exactly back to the seasons that change. Like, a true friend will respect you in all seasons of your life and not have the same expectations. Like, this expectations when you're single versus when you're married versus when you have kids versus when you're a stay-at-home mom.
Expectations, that word right there, that will get you with friendships. Like, you have these high expectations, and I think it first starts in your relationship, like your marriage relationship, because that ultimately is your best friend, right? The Lord is number one, then your spouse. And so you get these expectations that you get in your head, and then that person doesn't live up to it, right? You didn't communicate what y'all were expecting. And so that's when things can get messy. And so always having, being realistic with that, and knowing that. What was your question about the seasons?
I said, when and how did you realize that it's okay if your inner circle
What did
changes
you say
in the
expound on just now? I lost it. I'm sorry.
Oh, just how, like,
A lot.
like how your friendships, what it looks like, changes, and the expectations whenever, say, you're single versus when you're married versus when you have children versus a stay-at-home mom versus a full-time working person versus all of those kind of things. Because I think some people think because we were friends for 10 years that our relationship will always be the same, even when you get married, even when you have kids. And they don't have that respect or that boundary of realizing, hey, I may not talk to him for a month, but we're still friends and they still love me and I still love them. Instead, they get mad and get jealous, and like some of them will even go to the point where they start bad-mouthing you or all of that.
In my situation, I feel like it organically happened. It just kind of fizzled out, and we talk every now and then, but your priorities are different, right? And my priority isn't to get to go catch up with these people anymore. My priority now is, the work of the kingdom, my family, and pouring into people that are hungry, right? That are hungry for the things of God. It's not just going to say, hey, and catch up over coffee and hear the latest drama, tea. Isn't that what the people call it these days?
Yes.
Tea. I learned that.
How do you deal with jealousy or competition when it tries to surface? Well, if it's competition, I just win.
Well,
just kidding. To be honest, when it comes like that with friendships or relationships, I don't deal with it. Like that's kind of what Pastor Mallory said in the beginning. She said something like, you don't have to tell people, hey, I'm not your friend anymore, or hey, you're not in my inner circle. You've moved out to
But
level 8.
if you see jealousy surfacing, like in yourself,
Oh, in yourself?
like you're getting
or-
jealous that your friend is friends with someone else type
or
of
is
thing?
it someone that's jealous of where
Well,
you're
hit
at?
it from both sides.
If you're feeling jealous, then you have to nip it in the bud. The word talks about, it's not okay to be jealous. And so realizing it, acknowledging it, and getting rid of it out of your life. If it's,
You said realizing and acknowledging it. I think those are two key things to anything we see going on in our own life. If you
I
don't
have a
do
problem.
those,
yeah.
if you don't do those things, you can't deal with it.
Well, and I will say, like, if you're dealing with, like, for example, you have a friend in your life and they move on, or they, and others jealous of your growth. Oh, well, I have an example for that too. So, for example, like, and I'm sure it happens to like all of us, but when you're in some form of leadership and you jump a level of leadership, the friends that you had before that can't come up with you all the
Correct.
time to that level of leadership. And sometimes the people don't understand that. Like, when I jumped level from like leadership to being in charge of something to being a pastor, the friends that I had before were still my friends, but they didn't understand where I was at now.
Correct.
And I couldn't bring them with me. Like, I couldn't force them to come up with me in that level, because they weren't in the same level or the same season that I was in, or same level of responsibility that I was in. So it happens. Like, if you grow or you go up in level of leadership, the people that were in your life, they can still be in your life, but understand that your inner circle just got smaller.
Yep.
Because when you go up a level, the people that you can, because for example, like, we'll have friends and even friends here, but we can't talk to them about what happens in meetings
Correct.
or in day-to-day work or situations with people that we counsel, we disciple. Our inner circle of who we can talk to just got a lot smaller. So it happens, if people are getting jealous of your growth or your new levels, it's not something you have to stress out about. It's just understanding that that's where God has you, and your inner circle just got smaller.
Yeah, and then there's some friends that, like, especially if they're biblically sound, they're biblically mature, can stick with you through those different areas of growth, and they're not getting jealous. And those are the ones you give your time to. Those are the ones you go to with major things. And that's why I said, like, in ministry, it's better to have friends that are leaders in leadership positions at different ministries or different churches, because then if there's a situation inside your church or inside your ministry that you don't have anyone to talk to about, because you can't talk about people's stuff within people that know that person. So then it's easy to have someone like that you can call and say, hey, like, what do you think about this? This is what I kind of said, but what do you think? And it's easy to hear their advice, because number one, they have no emotional attachment to it.
Yeah.
Number two, they don't know the person, so there's no prejudgment or bias to it. Number three, they're removed and can see it from a perspective that you can't see it from. So those are the kind of people that are important to have in your life.
And someone like that is someone talking ministry, but also not. If you're going to someone for advice, biblical wisdom, right? That person, those people are ahead of you. And so having people in your inner circle that you go to that are where you want to go, right? They're already ahead of you. They've already been through that. They can talk on experience with the Word of God. But like someone who comes to my mind, Pastor Allen, you have gone to him with things. I know people, Pastor Jordan and Pastor Caro. And so he has been and done so much ministry that he's a solid pastor to go to for that wisdom and guidance. It's like, he's been there, done that.
Yeah, and kind of based on what you're saying, kind of don't have all the same people in your inner circle.
Right.
You have to have different strengths, like
Correct.
different people.
Absolutely. Pastor Allen said to me one time, the best leader isn't someone who knows everything, but it's the person that surrounds themselves with the people that know the things that I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what, like, my inner circle involves people like Pastor Allen, like Pastor Tim in Virginia up in New York, they lead their own church. Pastor Kai, who's a dean of a Bible school, like, that bring all these different elements and these different strengths and things like that. What were some of the... Monica
said this sounds a lot like the business world. I think the great thing about the power of the inner circle, it's a principle you can apply across the board, regardless of business, leadership, like natural, spiritual, and church and ministry, whatever. Like anywhere you go, it works, because the people, and you said this, but the people you surround yourself determine your level of success. Mm-hmm. Like the people in my inner circle are not people who have done more than me, who are a different level of excellence than me, who are higher than me, not people who already have done what I've done. No, those are the people I disciple. Yeah. The people who are in my inner circle are the ones that I want to look like in 5-10 years. Those are the people that I have there so that they can help me grow and be the person that I want to become.
Yeah, they should either be more mature past you in experience and achievement, if we can just say it from a practical standpoint, or they should be really close to the same level. And maybe, like I'm saying, like Pastor Tim in Virginia and Pastor Kai and some of those others that are at that level are at a similar level as I am, but from a completely different aspect. Yeah. Like they deal with different things, but they understand what I'm dealing with. Yeah. So some of the questions: what about when a friend doesn't support your life changes in the same way you support theirs?
Mm-hmm. They can be your friend, but they're not in your inner circle.
Yeah. Correct. How would you make friends with other leaders outside of your home church? A lot of that happens organically over time. Mm-hmm. Over time. Mm-hmm. That kind of goes back to being desperate for community. And you could get into relationships this way too, like dating relationships, marriage relationships. Don't be so desperate to not be lonely that you force something. Right. The Lord will bring it around when you're ready for it and when you need it. So just be patient and let it happen organically. Yeah. Okay. If you have any more questions, type them in there, and I'm going to throw out one more question for them. And so if you have questions, type it in there. When you think of Proverbs, or when reading it, on Proverbs 27 verse 17, what do you think of and who do you think of? So let me read it to you in the New King James and then the Amplified.
Know this off the top of your head?
As iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. The Amplified says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens and influences another through discussion. Mm-hmm. So whenever you think on that, whenever you dwell on that, whenever you read it, and we're talking about friendships and inner circles, how does that tie in, and how does that affect your decision making of who you allow to speak into your life?
What first pops in my head is, if you're ironing, sharpening iron, right? It's something they're rubbing on each other, right? And so those who you have around you are rubbing off on you. And so like you had talked about earlier, if you're surrounding yourself with people that are not good influences, you're going to go down to them, right? So when you're sharpening iron with iron, it's good results, right? It's beneficial.
But also it's painful.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because like my natural, like how I just naturally am, I hate confrontation and I hate complicated. So if it's going to be complicated, I'm out. Like that's my natural. In relationships or friendships, if it's complicated, I just don't want to deal with it. But when you read that scripture and it says, can you read again the Amplified? It says discussion.
Yeah, and that's why I love the Amplified. Like it breaks it down and opens your mind so much. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens and influences another through discussion.
So when I think about that verse, I think about Jordan. Like it's
That's what I was about to say.
I think about my husband. Like he's, and I will say, like if your spouse is not in your inner circle, you need to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Like you need to.
Yeah. What did I do?
Yeah, you need to have your spouse in your inner circle, because Jordan and I are complete opposites, and he challenges me to grow in ways that I don't want to grow in areas that I don't want to deal with, in areas that I don't want to be challenged in. So when I think about iron sharpens iron, it's a painful process at times. I can't imagine something being sharpened that is just smooth and easy and you don't have to like use some force for it. So,
but the end result is for your benefit.
Correct.
Because it makes it more efficient, more effective.
100%. So, if you want a friend that will sharpen you, you have to understand that they might call you out on things you need to repent of, or you need to stop doing, or that attitude. And your natural response might be, well, they're not on the same page as I am, so they don't need to be in my inner circle. No, they're trying to sharpen you.
Yeah.
We get defensive.
We get defensive. Yeah. So you need to, if you have allowed someone to be in your inner circle, and for example, like Pastor Sean is a perfect example of this. Like I have given him access to speak into my life, and he'll come into my office and says, hey, you need to work on this. Hey, you need to deal with this. Or, hey, like you responded this way. And I don't get defensive of like, well, I didn't ask you for your opinion, or like, why are you calling me out? Like, no, why? He's looking from a different perspective of something that is a weakness of mine, and he's trying to sharpen that in me. So you need to be very careful of if someone, but for example, like if a student calls me out on something like, hey, you're not good at this, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Like, it's not going to tear me down and discourage me for a week. I haven't given them that access to my inner circle. So you need to know who are in your inner circle. And if they speak into your life and they try to sharpen you, you don't get defensive. You take it for what it is, and you apply that and see where you need to get better at. And there's also a way to do it in love. Like, you don't start telling everyone in your inner circle, like, hey, you suck at this. Like, there's a way to do it too where it produces fruit.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
No, I think it's, those that are in your inner circle, if they can't come to you and say like, hey, you need to fix this in your life, and you are not open to hearing them from the biblical standpoint, then you need to reevaluate your own heart. I know when we first got married, and sometimes, there's days that I have to make sure that I'm not getting defensive, but when he comes to me, he is a very point blank person, as many of you know. And in the very beginning of our marriage, I took offense all the time to it. And so knowing that he is the person, all right, I married him, I should take his guidance and wisdom from things of like, hey, Mallory, you're doing this and it needs to stop now before it gets out of control. You have to appreciate that. You have to appreciate that someone is coming to you and that cares about you, that wants the best for you. And so not becoming offended and putting walls up, but knowing this person, I've allowed them this place in my life, and I need to fix this problem because they're doing it for your good.
Yeah, and that goes back to the very first things you talked about. As long as those are the right people.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas if they're the wrong people, I mean,
Your spouse should be your right person.
no, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
we have
I hope
problems.
so.
But how many of us have had people that we've either thought were the right people or presented themselves as the right people, but then when push came to shove or something came up, you're like, wait a minute. Is that truly what's going on, or is there a selfish motive behind it?
Yeah.
Like, how many people want to be friends with people that they can dominate and control the way their life goes, and it's not out of a pure motive?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I have to kind of give some like grace on this because I'm very like just clear cut on like, you know, you see things and you call them out, but there's some people that get so wrapped up in the emotional side of it that they don't see when someone's like being selfish or has the wrong motives. Like all they think is like, this is my best friend, you
Right.
know, and they don't. So you have to really ask the Lord to give you wisdom on who you should allow in your life. You know, you need to ask the Lord, like, have the right people, bring in friends that are good for me, that my inner circle, I want them to edify me and encourage me and make me better. So if that's something that you see yourself in, that you're constantly hitting a wall of like, well, I thought they were the right friend, or I thought I made the right decision, or I allowed someone I shouldn't have allowed, then you need to ask the Lord to, you know, sharpen in you so that you can recognize who you should allow in your life. Because not everyone, I mean, people like having friends and people like having people around them. But I will say the older I've gotten, like, I appreciate like a smaller circle, like the people, not the big crowd that you always have around you,
Yeah.
but the small circle that you can count on at all times.
Yeah. Because have you ever been in that situation, you know, where you have something that you're going through and you've made the mistake of sharing it with too many people and you hear everyone's opinions, right?
Yeah.
Your thoughts are important, like your thoughts need to be lined up on the word. But if you have all these people's opinions in your mind, you can't shut that off, right? Or you have difficulty shutting it off, and that's influencing your decision when really it should be you going to the Lord first and then maybe those 1 to 2 people, not 15 people telling you their opinion and they don't
Yes.
even read the word of God. So
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, if the Lord told you to do it, you could have people that are gonna like be like, "Hey, the Lord told you to do it."
yeah, it doesn't
Like,
matter what I say. If he said do it, do it.
correct, do it. And I think the other thing is realizing where you are determines your inner circle as well.
Correct.
Because many people can't see where they are and aren't honest enough with themselves. Like, if you're someone that tends to operate by emotion, don't have other emotional people around you. Have people that are going to go, hey, wait. Take a breath. Realize what you're actually saying. Is that a mature decision, or are you being emotional? Because what emotional people, and I operate on mostly zero emotion because my mom used to just beat me, and
Bless you.
Bless you.
but I that's never really been a thing for me, and some of that's because I'm a man, and some of it, I guess, just the way I was brought up or whatever. But emotional people tend to attract emotional people, and that's dangerous. I mean, for example, emo music. Like, if you listen to emo music, what happens? You become depressed. You become emotional. And that happens too if you're hanging around emotional people. So if you tend to notice that you base decisions on emotions, or you're impulsive, then have people around you that are the opposite. I know it's easiest, and this kind of is a whole nother topic, but it's easiest to just go with the flow, right? It's easiest to just be friends with people that are just like you.
It's comfortable.
Exactly.
It's very comfortable.
But if you actually want to grow, and you actually want people that are going to look out for you and tell you what's best for you and help you make the right decisions, then many times you have to do the hard thing and have friends that are the opposite of you and think differently than you and are at different maturity levels than you.
Yeah, 100%.
Anything else?
I will say, like, when you're, like, if you do have your inner circle, or you're developing your inner circle, or you have people around your life, and you start noticing, like, you getting defensive or jealous, or like things flare up or you don't like how certain people are treating you, you know, your first response can't be, well, they're the wrong people for me. Like you have to look inward of
Not
like
everyone's the wrong person
Yes,
over 8 years.
100%.
Sometimes there's a
Sometimes
common
it's you.
denominator. Yeah.
Sometimes it's you. So when you feel like you're having so much opposition with your friendships, sometimes you just have to look inward. Like, is your flesh acting up?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you have to deal with, and that, you know, that happened to me. Like, there was a season where I was complaining to Jordan, like, hey, why don't I have any friends? Like, I want more friends and just people don't want to be my friend. And I was just complaining, like, I just want more friendships. And one day Jordan just told me, well, if you want friends, then you have to be friendly. And I was like, I don't like that answer. Like, why can't I just have friends? So, you know, sometimes we just have to look inward. Like, if you want good friends, then you have to be a good friend. You have to sow those seeds. If you want people to be in your inner circle, then you have to be trustworthy enough to be in someone else's inner circle. Like, it goes both ways. You have to look inward before you start pointing the finger of like, well, these aren't the right people and everything's wrong with them. And I'm just waiting for the right people to come into my life. Like,
You'll be waiting your whole life.
yeah, you're going to be waiting a long time.
That's good.
Anything else in closing? Well, I guess we'll wrap it up with that. Hope you got something out of it today. We love you guys. Don't forget about Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo.
Potluck.
What do we call it? But didn't we have another name?
Nope, we went back to potluck.
Family lunch.
Family lunch.
Family
Potluck.
lunch. Church in the City family lunch.
Don't get offended with the name potluck.
Bring a big dish. So that you can feed multiple people.
Yes.
Which should be easy with Hispanic food, right? Because isn't it easier to cook a lot of
but
it in bulk?
Hispanic people cook Hispanic food. If you like have non-Hispanic people, they cook a Tupperware of Hispanic food. You know what I'm saying? Like, so bring enough if you want to partake.
I'll just say, like, Taco Bueno is in our parking lot, so you can go buy like one of the party packs.
So it's Taco Bell across the street. So, but that's not. Neither
not
are
Mexican
Hispanic. But no, it isn't. Before anyone goes off in the comments, it doesn't have to be Mexican food. You can bring whatever dish you want. Just
no, but it's just the
Bring enough to
Mexican
share.
food tastes
yes,
better.
it does. 100%. So
And it's the
share arroz con leche. That would be good. But yeah, it's like a
milk and
dessert.
rice, milky
Milk.
rice.
Sweetened rice.
Oh, nice.
Hmm. But just bring in. If you want to partake of everyone else's dishes, then provide a dish yourself.
If you want to go buy a bunch of tacos from Los Marquez and Rockwall and bring them, you can bring them right to me. I will gladly accept them.
My mom, that's my mom. She makes great tostadas.
Does she?
She should come up just for that
You
weekend.
should come up. You should definitely come up.
Spaghetti verde.
Spaghetti, yes.
Green spaghetti. That sounds
It's
like some Dr. Seuss
no,
stuff.
it's poblano
Oh, is
spaghetti.
it?
You would love it
Then
because
I
you
would
love
like it. Yeah.
poblanos rellenos. Yeah, you would love it. Yeah, no, that's April, but Alexis makes a good poblano spaghetti. Yep. Oh, now we're hungry. So
Where are we going for lunch?
I don't know.
This is the danger. Like, you know the joke? No, like, I remember Pastor Mike used to say it all the time. We get in here and we start trying to teach the word, and you can look on everyone's face, and everyone's just wondering what they're going to have for lunch. It's really hard with Pastor Ryan because he talks about food in every sermon pretty
all the
much.
time. Even in like meetings, he always brings
Yes.
up a dish or food. I'm like, oh, I brought lunch. I brought a salad.
All right. Well, Spanish church. Yeah, Pastor Carl, I'll let you translate this. Y'all have baptisms this Sunday, so you can still reach out to Pastor John if you want to get baptized.
Do you think they've been watching this whole
I
time?
don't know.
Now tuned in.
I don't know. Just do it.
There is baptisms on Sunday?
Yeah.
No, when? Yeah, Sunday.
This Sunday.
Domingo, si van a la iglesia en español, van a tener bautizos con
You
Pastor
sound
John.
as excited as about whenever you're about to get a house.
As in English? I sound as excited in Spanish as in English? Yes. Correct. I am excited in both languages the same.
She's not an emotional person.
No, but thank God I married Jordan because he balances that out in me.
Spanish church has potluck every Wednesday. Yum.
Hector, you need to announce that in Spanish so they can bring their food. I guarantee you there's going to be some
Yes.
good cooking.
Yes,
Yes.
Hector,
From
please
that.
announce that in
And
Spanish.
and label the dishes so I can try.
And make sure they cook in like mass quantities.
Yes.
Please.
This is a good way to bring all their uncles and tias out.
That's true.
And abuelas. You know those abuelas can make some.
If there's ever like just a grandma, like a Mexican grandma cooking anywhere, we're stopping. Like, you know that food is good. Even if it's street food, you know it's going to be good.
Ah, see, Pastor John said thank you. See?
You're welcome, Pastor John.
What else? This is the last week of. It's just one lady that keeps bringing something. Well, make sure it comes to my office. Last week of Covenant Members class. New Believers class keeps rolling. What else we got?
We have all our fundraisers are happening, so just stay tuned with all of our announcements. And then we have the potluck coming up. We have Mother's Day coming up. We have May 18th is our next outreach. It got postponed, so now we're doing it May 18th. So
Yeah,
make
we
sure.
were. Evangelist Harvey and I were going back and forth. He's like, "Do you think we should just post?" I said, "There's rain all in the
Yeah.
forecast Friday and Saturday." So he's like, "Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. We'll just push to May because
Yeah.
you try to set those chairs out in muddy. They just sink.
Nope.
Have you ever been at a wedding and like the bridal party comes down in heels on grass and they just start sinking, and then like all of a sudden their shoes come off because they're just stuck in the mud?
Yeah, it's funny.
Rough. Rough.
Well, you got a dog over there. And you
Rough. But yeah, there's a lot of announcements, but I mean, everything's on the announcement video. We announce them every Sunday and Wednesday. So just, they're on social media.
Can we do email blasts?
Oh, Lord. No. Please, no.
Would you like to go back to snail mail?
No. All right. Well, we love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning. Hope you enjoyed it. We will see you. You're coming on later today, aren't you?
See.
All right. So Pastor Mallory will be on with you guys in the afternoon. Pastor Andrea and Pastor Kinsey will be on tomorrow morning.
Can you join me this afternoon?
I can't.
Why?
I have to watch Eden.
She can come on with us.
Okay.
She has a lot to say
She does.
because she's related to him.
Love you guys.
Bye.